to this episode of Fireside Chat. On this episode, we're going to be discussing on homesteading A to Z, start to finish. So the first thing you got to do if you're going to homestead, you got to save up money, unless you already have money. Then, once you have your money saved up, go ahead, start looking for your homestead. Start looking for land, go on Craigslist, look up Remax, Century 21, all the different real estate. Find a newspaper, talk to some people, ask around certain towns, and find land that's going to fit your budget, your ideas, your homesteading plans, and your dreams. Once you find that land, go ahead and purchase it. After you purchase that land, the first step is going to be like a painting. You're going to visualize it, you're going to create it, you're going to design it, and then you're going to paint it. But in this case, since it's homesteading, you're going to build it. You want to figure out where your garden's going, where your animals are going, where different buildings will be, your shed, your garage, your homestead, etc., etc. Once you have all that figured out, hopefully you saved up money to put money towards it. If not, you're either going to have to save up money or that 9-to-5 job is going to be what's going to finance the building of your homestead, the building of the first block of your dreams. So, you get the money together, you start building, you get all the infrastructure up. Do you go ahead and get animals? No. And you're probably thinking, but you have animals. I've made a lot of mistakes in homesteading so far. And in this episode, I want to explain and I want to get it through to all the homesteaders, because out of all the research I've ever done, I have not found a homesteading channel that has explained how to do a homestead A to Z, start to finish. That's what we're going to do here. You don't want animals because your animals are going to cost you money. I want to show you how to homestead for free or for cheaply, depending on where you want to go, what you want to do, how you want to do it. So, the first step after getting the infrastructure on your property is going to be building hugelkultur beds. And you're probably thinking, what is a hugelkultur bed? Well, you could YouTube it, you could Google it, or I can break it down a little bit for you in this video. So a hugelkultur bed is how they do redesertification. There's many different ways, applications, just like making a soup, how you can build your hugelkultur bed. Basically, you can either dig a hole in the ground or start flush on the ground. You're going to take logs, sticks, brush, and you're going to build a bed that's however deep you want. Normally, they're 6 foot deep. You're going to see later this year in some videos of me building my hugelkultur beds. Some of them are 2 foot deep of wood. Some of them are going to be 6 feet deep of wood. The more wood you have, the better. And basically with the hugelkultur bed, you're going to put down a bunch of wood, then you're going to stuff in between the wood with straw, grass clippings, leaves, animal feces, whatever you can get to put inside. And then you're going to cover it with dirt. By doing that, that's going to give you a good garden bed. And that's going to be the next step in homesteading will be the very first thing you do after infrastructure, you set up a garden, a flower garden, and an orchard. The reason you want to do this is because with the hugelkultur beds, the wood will absorb water as it breaks down and become a giant sponge. That sponge is going to give you water. With that water, your plants can flourish. Water is life. While you're building that infrastructure, before you get to the gardening, you want to do as many metal roofs as you can. You want to set up IBC totes, 275-gallon tanks. They're tanks in metal cages. You can find them Craigslist on papers and things like that. You normally get them for like $100. But anyhow, you want to set up metal roofs. You want to collect as much rainwater as you can. You want to be able to have a capacity no less than 5,000 gallons that you can retain. The reason I say no less than 5,000 is because the small garden I have upstairs is running me about 225 gallons a month to keep that water. I use 7.5 gallons of water a day times 10 days is 75, 20 days 150, 30 days $225. And then you got to figure out some months we have 31 days, so it's a little bit more. That's just my garden upstairs. Then you have animals that you eventually have that you're going to have to water, and you need your own water needs to do dishes, to do laundry, everything like that. So once you're able to retain 5,000 gallons, then you need to go straight into building your hugelkultur beds. You need to have the biggest garden that you think you need, the biggest garden that you can work. And with that, you're going to, like I said, have a vegetable garden, you're going to have a flower garden, and you're going to have orchards. You're going to want to buy fruit trees because it takes 4 to 5 years, sometimes 6 years for fruit to come on the tree. And that's going to be part of this plan that I'm going to show you on how you can homestead for practically free, if not totally free. So once you have the hugelkultur beds built, you get the garden going. You have plants and everything. And what you want to do the next year after you have your first year, because that's going to be trial and error. You're going to see what you did right. You're going to see what you did wrong. So the following year is going to be your first animals. Technically, they're insects. But I've made a lot of mistakes, and I'm trying to show you the best way to set this up and the way I'm trying to hurry up and catch up this upcoming year for my mistakes that I've already made. The next step is going to be honeybees. You want to get honeybees because those honeybees are going to be fed by your flower garden, by your vegetable garden, by your fruit trees. In return, because you are feeding the bees for free, they are going to provide you with more fruit on the trees, more vegetables in the garden, and prettier, beautiful flowers that will bring multiple insects in. With that, they're also going to produce for you. You're going to get honey, you're going to get wax, things like that. So once you have the honeybees established, then the next step is going to be getting a small flock of chickens. You want 6 to 12 chickens, no more than 12. And at any point in this process, if you cannot afford the next step, you need to go back to step 1, which is always going to be the rain, and go from there. So with the chickens, you have 6 chickens. You start feeding them out of the garden, that's going to be free. Because your garden is going to be big enough to feed you and feed the chickens, you won't have to buy chicken feed. If you cannot dehydrate and dry out enough of your vegetables throughout the year to stock away in 55-gallon drums to feed those chickens, you got to go back a step, 2 steps, back to the garden. If your garden's not big enough to provide enough food in order for you to live and homestead, you got to do another hugelkultur bed. You need to expand the garden. That's going to be the key here. If the garden does not have enough water, you go all the way back to step 1. Put up more roofs. Put up some tarps. Do all different types of rain catchment. You need the water to provide for the garden. By having free water out of the sky that Mother Nature creates for you, it's going to provide you food. And every step is going to be an ecosystem. It's going to be a cycle. It's going to be a full circle. So the water provides plants. Plants provide bees. Bees provide better plants, which feed your chickens. Your chickens will feed you, and down the line. So now you're at the point, your garden, whether you had to go back and expand it or not, your garden is now big enough to go ahead and get a dozen chickens or 2 dozen chickens. If you just want to be up to a dozen chickens and branch into something else, go into turkeys, go into ducks, or go into rabbits. Same thing. If your garden is not providing enough food, you got to do a bigger garden. And that's the whole process of this ecosystem. So after you get the chickens and ducks and turkeys and rabbits, that's cutting down some of your food bill at the grocery store, your vegetables, your meat, your eggs. Now you're thinking, oh boy, I drink a lot of milk. I like cheese, I like ice cream, things like that. Okay, so your next step is dairy. For dairy, you have 2 options. You can go with milk goats or you can go with a cow. Unless you have a lot of land or you have really fertile land like Kansas, the middle part of the USA, or overseas if you have lush fields and things like that. Cows eat a lot of food. Goats eat a lot of food, but goats are nothing compared to cows. Goats need between 5 to 15 pounds of feed a day. That's a lot of feed. But if you have the garden set up, your garden's going to provide food. It might cost you a little bit of money in hay or alfalfa just to supplement. But the whole key is to grow the garden big enough to be able to feed the animals. And off of your land, you're going to be growing grasses and weeds and everything on your property. If not, it's already there. With all the animals you're getting, they're going to be producing fertilizer, aka droppings. With those droppings, that is going to get mixed in with all different parts of your property, the soil. You can mix it by hand, you can mix it in planter pots, and you're able to grow more. The more you can grow, the more animals you can have, the less cost you have, and you're homesteading for free. With goats, a lot of people think the milk is horrible. That is true if the goats do not have a certain regimented diet. With goats, if you have them on alfalfa, baking soda, and minerals, you can't tell the difference between cow's milk and goat's milk. And yes, I don't have goats, but I've gone to neighbors that have goats, and I've tried both goats that get into weeds, which is sour, disgusting milk in my mind, and goats that are on alfalfa, baking soda, and minerals, and you can't tell the difference. With that, keep in mind, you're not just getting milk. You can make butter, you can make cheese, you can make ice cream, you can make goat's milk soap. There's so many different applications that the goat is going to help you. With that, you're saving money at the store once again. The next step, and this will be the last step for me, will be pigs. The reason I want to get into pigs is because pigs provide bacon, pork chops, ham, roast, everything like that. I want a good protein on my property besides birds and rabbits. The reason you want pigs at the end and not before goats is the simple fact that pigs eat a lot of food. And you're going to be feeding these pigs for 6 to 9 months. And they normally average, when they're up there in weight, about 50 pounds of food a day. Now with goats, here we go back to the ecosystem. The goats are going to provide, if you have Nubians, Alpines, you're looking at 1 gallon to 1.5 gallons a day for milking twice a day. And with all your animals, you want more than one. You never want one pig, you never want one goat, you want at least 2. Because that gives them friendship, that gives them companionship, and that will also strategically get them to grow properly. Because like when I bring my puppy in here, Minnie Mouse, my Anatolian Shepherd, when I bring her in the house with Mickey Mouse, they sit over here and they rush and try to figure out who's going to eat the most food. And that's a great thing with your animals. Instead of going 12, 14, 16 months to grow a pig, if they have competition, they're going to be going after that food, and they're going to be grown in 6 to 8 months. And that's going to be a lot better for you. And the reason the pigs come last is because the goats are going to provide a lot of that food. So you're going to feed the pigs goat's milk, goat cheese, goat butter, things like that. Then the chickens, the ducks, the turkeys are going to provide your pigs with feed. How? You're going to hard boil dozens and dozens of eggs, and you're going to feed the pigs hard boiled eggs. That's going to give them protein, calcium, everything like that. What pigs need to grow. Then your garden. We're going back again to step 2. Your garden. Pumpkins, corn, squashes, zucchinis, peas, green beans, beets, collard greens, all these different things. You're going to be pulling out the garden and feeding that pig. In the next episode of Fireside Chat, I'm going to be going over how setting up an ecosystem on your homestead will not only let you homestead for free, but how you're going to be able to make money. And we're going to go over how each step of the ecosystem, A through Z, start to finish, will provide you with money. And how this homesteading, the lifestyle, the way, the dream, could get you out of that city, get you out of that 9-to-5 job, sitting in that office cubicle that you don't like, with a boss that's mean, things happening with your family that you can't attend because you got to work, you can't get the time off. I'm going to show you this way. We're going to go in this journey, and we're going to go over these things. So, as you saw in this episode, we went from A to Z, how to set up the homestead. And basically, we're going to hit the points again real quick. And that's going to be 1, save up money. 2, buy your homestead. 3, design and build your infrastructure. Your barns, your coops, hooger culture beds, everything like that. 3 is going to be building metal roofs, collecting rainwater. 4 is going to be gardening in the hooger culture beds, your flower garden, and your fruit trees. 5 is going to be your honeybees to pollinate and create more food for you. 6 is going to be your first setup of chickens. 7 will be dipping into more chickens, ducks, turkeys, and rabbits. 7 will be getting your goats, your milk goats, and 8 will be getting pigs. And of course you can add 9, 10, 11, and 12 if you so decide to get alpacas, llamas, donkeys, horses, or cows, or sheep. I will not be getting those because I have no use for any of those animals. The only thing that I might dip into years down the road, I might get 1 cow for the property if I'm able to produce enough food and if I'm bringing in enough money to supplement the feed that I'll need for the cow, which I'll be going over in the next episode of our Fireside Chat. So with that, I hope you enjoyed this, and have a great night. Live happy, live free. That's the only way to be.